Hey everyone, CYL here, and I'm going to be attempting to explain a concept a week for the next year. Today's concept is honesty. Perhaps this will be a multi-parter, but I'll do my best to explain, some reasonable form of a section. Okay. How do I say this? Let's conceptualize two people. So there's person A, person B, and say this is us on the right here. And basically what happens is someone will ask you a question. And there are different ways to respond to a question. Okay, this is I'm explaining this poorly, but more or less, especially a question that is more loaded, or perhaps a more moral question, where there's a dilemma, right? Say like a secret and you don't want to tell the truth necessarily. But essentially, with every statement, with every question, there are two different paths. There's telling the truth, and there's telling a lie. So like factually true statement and factually false statement. So, what day is tomorrow? Tomorrow is Friday, which is the true statement. Or I could say tomorrow's Monday, which is a false statement. Let me fix this. So that's like level 1. Level 1 has some sort of statement, and then it maps to two options, a 0 and a 1, or true, false. More nuanced is level 2, right? So if you think about how to respond to things and then you get older, especially to moral dilemmas, like what do you say when you're hiding Jews during World War II and the Holocaust, and someone asks you if you know anyone. You might have more nuance, where there's actually three options. There's the true option, there's the false option, and then you might think you're really clever. There's like a neutral option. We'll say this can be done in different ways. So there's answering the question directly, truthfully. There's answering the question directly with a false answer. And then there are neutral answers. There's ignoring the question. So you might say maybe you switch the topic. Oh, man, the weather's great. That's a very blatant example. But you could do a more nuanced example of that. There's being silent, which is basically also ignoring the question, but much more maybe you didn't hear or direct. And there's also explicitly. So these are implicit, you give them a feeling that you're not going to answer the question. But then explicit, you could say, I am not going to answer the question, or I don't want to answer that. So now we have three options, right? So if we conceptualize it on a number line, we have -1. I'm going to say this is the false answer. And then we have 1 over here, which is the truthful answer. And this all stems from one question, right? And then with a neutral, we have we could map this on 0. And really what I'm mapping here is how harmful, I guess, is the word. I'll do harmful. So on the left is the most harmful, and then on the right is the most helpful. So you're answering honestly to be helpful, and you're answering falsely to be helpful. And this is you're not helping at all. But also, I want to map something like this, where the middle, the 0 answer, this neutral answer, maps to the most confrontational. So these are least confrontational. So the confrontational map, if we think about it, I'll do C because I can't write. The confrontational map kind of looks like this, or I guess a more parabola, where 0, 0, and we have 1 and -1, right? Whereas the helpful harmful map, it kind of looks like this, right? Where we have 0 and we have 1 and -1, where we have harmfulness over here, helpfulness here, 0, right? So let's just draw this more accurately. So we have two different ways we can do this. So there's this, which is helpful harmful, and this, which is confrontational. And we have our number line here. So this is 0, this is negative, or this is +1. Sorry, that's a 1. So -1. And that corresponds with false, neutral, and true. And then, so the next level, I'll say level 3, is basically going above and beyond, right? So with every question that you're asked, there's these 3 different responses, but really the question comes from somewhere, from the person, and the person has some implication. So there's like certain questions which don't necessarily fall into this, that are meaningless, like questions without intent, like, oh, I'm just like, what did you eat for dinner last night? Like, no one cares. There's no real intent behind there, instead of like getting to know you, maybe, or maybe. But for a more complex question, like, what do you think about your teammates' performance? When the questions that are more moral, and the ones that are more tricky, and the ones that go against your conscience are the ones that there's something going on there. Like, say your friend has a secret, like say he's in the closet or something, and then your friend's parent or significant other asks you directly if are they heterosexual or homosexual, and you have a choice, and your friend has told you not to say the truth, and these kind of complex questions. So we map this to basically neutral, truth, false, and there are another subset of questions where you go like extra false, extra true. So what I mean by this is, you not just directly answer the question, that would be false here or true here. You go out of your way to give additional information in order to help the person. So not just answering the question, but you're actually targeting the intent and the person behind the question. You're not naively just answering the question here. So an example of this, say like, oh, I don't know where X is, where my friend is, right? Where, like say their parent is looking for this one person that's your friend, and you went to the party or whatever. So truthfully, you could say, oh, I know he went to the party, and other stuff, but you don't necessarily say it. And this one would be like, you actually help her. You're like, oh, I know he went with these people as well. I know he was thinking about doing this and was excited about this, and you offer up more information than their question, right? So to do even more, to make this jump, requires insight. It's not just a matter of telling a true or false statement. It's a matter of like going above and beyond. And so, right, so we have this helpfulness and harmfulness. Harmful, hopeful. And so true plus is basically level 2. So this is even more helpful, right? So this is pretty helpful. You're answering their question. This is even more helpful. You're going out of your way to try to answer and help them achieve their goal, whatever it costs. Right? So a car salesman might tell you the answer truthfully. He'll be like, yeah, this car X, Y, and Z is true, and that might get you to sign the car. But the car salesman who goes true plus might be like, yeah, this is really good, but actually there's a better deal at this other place. Or, you actually don't want this car, even though it has everything you asked for. Some things you might not know that you aren't asking about are X, Y, and Z, and this is why you want a different car. That is like going above and beyond. That's targeting the person behind the question. You're not just answering the question. Likewise, this is doubly harmful. This is, you're going out of your way to be harmful. You're going out of your way to be malicious. Not necessarily against them, but definitely against their interests and more in favor of your own interests, right? So I'll do F- instead. So this is like, where's your friend at the party? And you're like, I don't know where he is. He hasn't contacted me. Or I guess you would say, I don't know where he is. That's like false. And then the next step is like, I don't know, he hasn't contacted me. Is he not home? He said he was going to be at home. He said he was going to do this. He never leaves. He never talks to me, or like he has always been honest. And this is like, you're saying all of these statements are lies to target, the result you want, to basically get them to not answer. And the most confrontational. So these are all of these options will get you off people's back. You're helping them in some form. In this case, you're harming them, but they think you're helping them. Or maybe they even know, but you give an answer. The real interesting part is where you don't give an answer. But yeah, that's more or less what I wanted to show. So in summary, there are actually 5 different ways you can answer a question. There's, true or false, which is level 1, which is what most people think about. But if you're subtle, there's actually a neutral option, which is to decline to answer the question. And if you're getting into more results-oriented things, there's further levels where you actually answer more than the question asked. And I want to say that this is helpful, harmful. Or I guess this is harmful on the left I'm doing. Right? I just like this sort of graph. This is confrontational. Hope that makes sense. I definitely need a better way to draw these figures. But this was episode 1. Hope you enjoyed it.